Hello everyone, this is Papa Smithy, and you're on Thorin's YouTube channel, so brace yourself for some banter.
This video is brought to you, of course, by Gamersups, so get 10% off, try some of my favourite flavours, and save yourself some money while supporting me. There's the Guacamole Gamer Fart 9000 one, it's just strawberry and lime. There's the Cherry Limesicle one, and it's a really delicious one with a nice sweet flavour. Obviously use the code Thorin, Thorin at gamesups.gg. Right, for my tier list, I told people before, I'm going to do way more tier lists, but I want to do them legit. Like, first of all, it has to be a tier list where you have all the people I want on there, which is a problem with a lot of them. And then also, I don't like tier lists, especially in League of Legends, where it's just the face of the player and it's like trickier or you got the wrong uniform. So this is all in theory correct. So this is going to be the League of Legends World Championship for 2024, so season 14, unlike TI, because Worlds kept running every year during Likoof era. The numbers are correct. So the secret with these, if you don't know, is you just take like 2010 off the number and then you get the number, it'll be 14 at that point in time. Whereas the problem in Dota was it used to be tied to the number, so this year would have been TI 14, but because of the Koof year, it's TI 13 this year, so they've ruined the fucking numbering system. But anyway, here's the tier list for Worlds. It's all the players. I didn't want to do the roll-by-roll one because I'm not the greatest expert ever about League. Like, I haven't watched the minutiae, especially of like LCS, to really be able to go super deep on the difference between row number 4 and number 3. Like, it's fucking too much. So I'm not even going to pretend to. What I'm going to do is all players at Worlds. I mean, this is just the teams in the main event, as far as I know. We didn't do the ones in the play. We're just going to do the ones that are guaranteed to be in the main event. And I'm going to do it with a normal size list, and we're going to be really harsh. We're not just going to be like super nice, blah, blah, blah. We're going to, in general, in fact, we're going to err on the side of caution. The less I know, the more I'll be like a bit critical of where I put the player. So as usual, I like to start with this and just start with the best players possible. So the best player in the world and the best player in League of Legends is Chovy. He is just like, I mean, the reason why, funnily enough, as a player, he actually typifies his team, which is a classic concept I love in sports. Is that that's when you get the greatest teams of all time, which is just as, think about a Knight. When Knight was at his best in BLG, they were gods at team fighting because he's a god at team fighting and doesn't have to always win lane. He can always just smash you in the team fight. Similarly, the other way around, Chovy is a god of laning. So Chovy wins in boring fashion. He wins with a CS lead, with an item lead, with where he doesn't even have to take a fight because his team gets all the objectives because he's got more power and leverage and positioning. So you can't take the fight, or if you do, you lose a guy and then you run away from the skirmish, and as they retreat and they kill another guy. So he is, even though to a fan, I understand why he'll never be above Faker because they don't think he's flashy enough, even though Faker does fuck all flashy stuff except int nowadays. But Chovy is just cracked out. He is just the best player for my money. He's absolutely unbelievable. So we're doing Chovy as number 1. Look, I can't know if he will win Worlds. Look, I think he inevitably, by the end of his career, will win Worlds, in my opinion, especially if he's on loaded teams like this and he keeps getting enough chances. But I think this is actually only the third real chance to win Worlds. Like, for me, he had a real chance in 2022. That was a very good team. 2023, I think he had an amazing team. And by the way, 2022 was a little bit his fault. 2023 wasn't really his fault. If you go back before that, I think it's only really Griffin in season 9 had a chance to win as well. And even then, that was the stupid one where they didn't get to take a coach because of the CV Max drama. And then Chovy just drafted fucking like tanks mid. So I guess you could say they had like a dark horse chance to win that. They would have been more like the 4th or 5th best team to win there. So I think it's actually only his third real chance to win. When you had to look at Animal Life, they had no business even being at Worlds. And then DRX, like, bloody hell, have you ever seen that roster? It looks good now because of like Pure Shit winning Worlds and Kerry being awesome. Back then, they weren't those players. And Thorin was way worse back then. So after that, I'm obviously going to go with Knight. Let's see. In theory, this isn't in any order, but I'm just sort of going off the top of my head. Because actually, I think recently, the other players I might have... Actually, no, wait, I guess I will go Bin next. I think I will put Bin second. Because even though I actually think Bin and Knight were both really fucking good in summer, and Bin's been great for the whole year. Crucially, obviously, he plays carries. Look, here's the thing. When people do that thing of like, oh, it's just a carry player, he can play a Cassante or something if he wants to. It's not great at it. And in his team, like, in general, I don't think you do it. I think the Chinese actually found a different path to League that I kind of really fuck with because it's the style I like. And I definitely fuck with it over the Korean style. I think the Koreans are still stuck in the mentality that every draft is building towards a 5v5 front-to-back team fight. So their logic goes, if ADC is really strong and I have a powerful ADC player, then I am just going to draft a tank top lane. That way I can have a tank in the team fight. But I actually think, if anything, if you're a team like BLG now, the obvious classic example I learned this from was IG in 2018. What you can actually do is you can say, hey, Jackie, are you not the best weak side ADC? Well, then don't play weak side. Play aggressively, play like with a kill lane, even if you want. And essentially, you will be a pressure vacuum in that sense. Instead of being the tank, so you can sort of just like play even in lane and then carry in the team fight. How about actually, we'll just win lane, because that way our top laner can be smashing lane all day long 1v1, because they're either ganking him and then you're free to farm and 2v2 fight, or they're ganking you bot lane, in which case the Shy gets to free farm or just go for 1v1 kills egregiously. So I think Bin does that for Elk. I think in their team, they clearly play more mid to bot. They're just that sort of a team. And if you had Elkin on as your bot lane, why wouldn't you? But I think Bin just goes, fuck it, I'm just going to play my Renekton anyway in top lane. I'll be fine even without jungle resources, by the way, and I'll still win my lane, still win in CS, still get solo kills. And in team fights, I'm going to be a monster because I'm Bin. So I think his Jax is going to be unbelievable at this tournament. His Renekton, his Nars always up there. There's a bruiser he can definitely play. So I'm going to put Bin second. I think he is mega right now. He only had, a week or two where he was a bit sus. Then I'm going to put Knight. I think after that, he's the other major player for me. That's Faker. What the fuck? Well, it's because they did that thing, right? I get it. It's because I was looking at the name below. It's this one here, Knight. So I'm going to go Knight. Whenever people say that thing, I'll even include my pal Monty, where they go, yeah, but he wasn't doing that well. That's a narrative from, like, no joke, the placements part, which was the beginning of summer after EWC and MSI. And that period of the tournament, maybe before EWC, that period was like the post-MSI hangover. And he had a couple of weeks there. We had some sus games with a few hits. Aside from that, Knight absolutely is an MVP candidate for that split. It was fucking unbelievable. And there was so many games, obviously, in that, like, fucking, whatever you call it, like Ascend group or whatever, that was like all the best teams, that he was fucking smurfing on people. And by the end, he was absolutely dominating. And then the playoffs, he had a whole bunch of smurf games. So just like in past years, I think Chovy and Knight are the best players in the world. Bin gets the category of being up there now. I think year on year, he's gotten better and better. And this year, he's his absolute best. I think Knight has to go in this category. He is fucking unbelievable. One of the best team fight mids in the world. He's worked with both sides. He's worked with the aggressive jungler with Jun, then it looked like a killer jungle mid duo. Now he has Wei, who's more of a supportive jungler. He can still make that style work. They have the fucking carries in all three lanes. I think this guy is the best player on the second best team, although it's debatable who's the best out of him and Bin, but I think he's absolutely fantastically good, and he's the best mid laner in the LPL, even if he isn't the best on his team, as in a player. So after that, obviously, the problem here is I'm going to put a whole bunch of big names in S, and then later I'll probably bump a couple down to A if I think, because I'm going to try and actually have it. So you can't be a million miles off Chovy and BS. Just because you're better than the A and B doesn't mean you're at Chovy's level. So let me think. The other obvious names I'm immediately thinking of for this tier here, I've got to say, what makes me feel sad is I don't know if actually any junglers deserve to be in S, because that's another thing I want to make a point about here. Is if we're doing overall players, look, the reason why Caps is the best player in the LEC is because he plays mid lane. Like, it's really hard to beat that. So even though I think Razork is as good a player as Caps, he doesn't play the same role. So when I put Razork second in LEC, I'm actually saying, you know, all those mid laners like Humanoid, they're not playing well enough, mate, because if they played comparable to his level, they should be more influential and better. So I actually think for junglers, it's going to be hard to put any junglers in here, but I'll consider in a minute if I want to put like Peanut in here. If not, a whole bunch of junglers are going to be an A if they're really good. So I think after this, it's actually going to be Viper. Because even though I do think I just say Zika for both of them. I don't give a fuck because I watched the LPL back in the day. Even though Zika, the mid laner of Hang My Life, did actually have like a half decent meta and actually sort of smurfed, especially towards the playoffs, had a bunch of big games where people were expecting him to int and they said he would just get the kill and he would carry. But I think Viper is fucking unbelievably good. Now, I'm not going to do that bullshit where you act like every single game he just hard carries, but he comes the closest of anyone in World League of Legends to doing so, in my opinion. And I think, look, actually the summer split, sadly, wasn't his best split. I actually think he was better in spring, and I think last year he was much more sort of like Elo held. I think actually his team now is pretty good. The obvious concern is just will Zika suffer with the meta at Worlds? Otherwise, look, his solo laners aren't the best. Like, his solo lane combo, it's probably underrated. It's top 10 in the world. In terms of his actual individual aspect of his solo laners, I don't think either of his solo laners is going to be an S. So you can already see, I think people like Elk obviously has better. He's got Bit of Night here. I think Piers has better. Keen might end up in S tier. We'll see on that one. So I actually have a hard time with like that aspect of it. I do still think Viper's a harder team to win, but then again, he has the peanut factor. I think that's big. By the way, he probably has, I think, let me think. Would I actually say this? Yes, I actually think Viper, even though his solo laners are slightly less powerful than some of the others out there, I think he has the best support jungle duo in the world, though. I think Peanut and Delight are both potentially the best at their role. They're really fucking good. And I think Delight's just mega. I think Peanut helps the whole team. So Viper's going to go up there. Mega mechanical skill. In fact, all these players are mechanical monsters. Who else deserves to be a mechanical monster? Let's have a look. Right. The main concern here is this. Wait there 1 second. I've just got to quickly open something. Let's put this here. Let me think. Who else should be up here? Like Elk maybe should be up here. Like I say, I could do the junglers as well. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do each role and ask who the S tier people are, put them in, and then sort like that. I think that's the move. So based on what I just said, I should put Delight up here, right? And then what we'll do later is decide, is there a difference between these players? So like I just said, I think Delight actually is S tier. Like in my opinion, the worst thing for Gen G about the roster move of the off-season was that because you gave up Peanut shot calling, you had to replace Delight with Lehens to get shot calling again, but Delight is better than Lehens last year and this year, in my opinion. So I actually think Delight is just the best support in the world. He's so fucking good. He needs it. Like, Missing's really good, but he also plays with Ruler. This guy, I've seen him do it now with Piers, who I think is just good, above average, very good. But I don't think he's truly elite. And now he's done it with Viper, who I already knew was cracked anyway. So he can just do it with anyone, mate. So this guy's just really fucking insanely good. It's amazing. A couple of years ago, he was just slumming it in the LCK, wasn't it? So what a sick player. Got to go with him. Also, by the way, he actually, I thought, was the best Gen G player at Worlds last year. He looked really, really good. It was him and then maybe Chovy. Delight. Who else am I thinking of here? See, the problem is that I don't think any other support deserves to be here. Like, the other names I'm thinking of is, I'm always big on Mako, and I think he looked awesome he was pretty good in spring, very good. Then he was awesome for most of summer. I think in playoffs it went down a little bit, so I don't know on that one. He's probably more of A tier. In fact, for now, I think I'll put him A tier, since we're talking. Let's have a look here. Obviously, some of the most longevity ever in the history of League of Legends, still contending for best in his role to this day. Might be the best Chinese or LPL support player. I mean, he won his first championship in 2015, guys. So, unbelievable player. I did a 2-part series about him on my Substack that is behind a paywall if you pay for it. On is another one, obviously. But the problem is, I'm not someone who thinks all 5 BLG players are S tier. And I think for me, I know why people think On's insane, because the players he goes for, he's sort of like a Chinese Hylissang for me. The players he goes for, he sometimes does find insane angles. He can do some insane mechanical shit, and he creates, like, sort of stimulates the game in a way very few supports do. But he also, like Hylissang, can int like a motherfucker, in my opinion. So for me, he's more of like an A-tier player. So we'll put him there. Who else are we thinking of here? Surely I'm putting Keen in S tier. Do think that BLG and Gen G do have like 2 or 3 of the best players in the world. I think they are actually very stacked teams. So I'm thinking already to put Keen in here. The problem Keen has is, think where you heard this before, he's kind of got the same problem Chovy has. He's not like playing like Bin does and just smashing Lane and killing solo, as if I put Kellen there instead of Keen. Wait there a second. Where is it? It was down. What's down there? Was it Keen? There we go. But he is more of like the boring one, because on his team, they do sometimes play secondary into pairs after Chovy, because Chovy's a farmer, isn't he? So you tend to play towards the bot lane after that, for my money. So I think Keen ends up being a weak side, or being someone who plays like a pressure soak, but he can play carries. He's obviously unfucking believable on Cassante, which is, for the next few years, it's just going to be the pick. It's going to be like a Gnar, where it's just ever present in top lane, isn't it? So he is really good. I think he deserves to be S tier. I think he plays, crucially, I think for top lane nowadays, even though I will always give the carry a lot of props and prefer the carry over the weak side or the tank player, I think in top lane, to be responsible, you have to play some tank, in my opinion, or be so exceptionally good like Bin, you can make the whole team play without it. So I think the fact that Keane, I think he also frees up so many draft resources precisely for the Pays of the world. It's actually why, by the way, spoiler, when I get to him later, Pays is getting nowhere near S tier. Because I actually think in his team, bro, look who else you've got. Like, literally, we have to take jungle bans away from Canyon, and you have the two solo laners who are willing to play all sorts of shit, mega deep champion pool. That's even without mentioning like a Delight Ricard or something. Like, bro, you just get the dream scenario to play in that team. So Keane's going to go there for me. Who else am I taking? I'll go ahead and immediately put Zeus in second, actually. I'm putting him in A tier. Here's what's sad about this. I might, at the end, consider... The problem is I actually don't think right now any T1 player is S tier. I don't think any of them are, especially because they're absolutely a unit. Like, I do think Zeus is the best of the laners on T1. I've always preferred him over Guma. People know that. First of all, I do think some of his picks, which people are like, he's forcing these weird picks and ADCs. Yeah, he does that because sometimes he plays the ADC, so Faker doesn't have to play the ADC, but you still have flex potential, because obviously flexing and getting some like surprise element in the draft is a massive part of T1's game, because when the meta itself can't be switched to them, to their own meta, they just try and fuck with the meta and your read on the meta by doing flexes in draft. So for me, when Carrier can't do all these picks, he's not doing any at the moment, Zeus is the one who has to do the weird picks / keep the other team honest in the draft. So for me, he's actually helping out Gumayushi a whole fuck ton and Faker, and he also can be a really good carry. Look, he's one of the biggest chokers on their team, absolutely. In my opinion, there's a reason they only won one international tournament with him in their team, and it was the one, Checks Notes, Worlds 2023, where he was the best player on their team, and actually probably the best player in the whole tournament. But I do think people look at the ints and they look at the bad games, especially in like the most recent LCK finals, and they just ignore that, yes, he'll have a game or two where he utterly shits the bed. By the way, so will fucking Owner. Back in the day, a couple of years, so did Gumayushi. But he also has some really good carry games too. And I do think he's a really good laner as well. So I'm going to put him A tier for now. But it'll depend how many players I get. The problem I have is I do think everyone above him is better than him. But he also might actually be better than some of these other players. But we'll look at that. I guess I'm just going to try and keep filling out the whole thing. I don't know. Like, for me, he probably is a borderline top 10 player at World, so I'll see how many people I get filled out aside to this. By the way, we'll do the Q&A after this, obviously. Let me think. So that was top lane. And now I would have 369. He's probably also an A-tier player, to be fair. Even though historically you think 369, S-tier player. One, he actually in general, in my opinion, isn't as good at international tournaments. I think he wasn't even as good at Worlds last year. It's just he was awesome at MSI. He's always been the player, he used to play with Knight in a bunch of teams, who, of the two of them, Knight wouldn't have the carries, so people said he choked. 369 would just straight up sometimes choke and underperform. He is very good domestically, but I think in spring he was awesome. Then he sort of disappeared a little bit at MSI. And then I actually think he did pretty well at AWC. And then I thought in summer he was just kind of good, but he wasn't at his peak. Obviously, people think of him as the tank player and the weak side player. I like him when he plays carries personally, but we'll have to see what he chooses to do in that sense. I think he tends to opt more towards the other start, especially because think of the bot lanes he's had. He had Ruler and Missing. He has now Jackie Lover Mikkos. You have like the best bot lane in China or in the world. Why wouldn't you play weak side sometimes or play a Gnar or something like that? Especially because he is fantastic at peeling and being a tank. So I'm going to put him in A tier for now. Right, I think that's going to be everyone for my top laners. So I guess I'll do... Did I miss a... Oh, jungle. There we go. So I think the only 3 S-tier players in Gen G would be Canyon as well. Because here's the reason why. I actually think Canyon was horrifically overrated the last few years when he was on Damwon. And I think in the sense that people let him have int games, bad pathing games, stupid picks in the meta, but because he went so fucking hard when he could do a carry game and his mechanics still clearly could really shine and be the best from jungle, and then he'd have those games where he'd be ballsy enough to like pick a niddly 5th game, even though it's going to be really hard to make work. It made it feel like at least this guy never quits. At least he's always trying, and when he does hit, he really hits big. And so everyone just did that cope of like, nah, he's still really good, like it's the others in the team. Like, I actually think if anything, Showmaker looks like the player who can play no matter who his teammates are. Canyon looks like he needs a very specific setup. But I do think this year he leveled up, actually. First of all, he showed me actually a supportive jungler style, like a tank jungle style. Like I did not know that was actually a real thing. So I'm not talking about metas in the past where you played Sejuani because it actually was like low P and OP kit that could do a fuck ton, and you had 6 solo liners, so you just get them kills all day, or sometimes you get the kill, and then you just get a really powerful Sejuani. That's not the same as like playing the super supportive Sejuani where you're going to be behind in the game. So I think he's shown me both sides. He still clearly has the mechanics too. Part of me feels like he is a player in this list who's the only one at the moment who's between the two. He's on the brink of A tier. Sometimes he can have some games that were off a little bit in summer, but I usually think he is S tier. Like for me, I actually do think he is the best jungler in the world. Like it's between him and Peanut's more the brain side, he's more the hands. So I think actually in that case, fuck it. I think I will say I'll put another jungler in. I'll put Peanut in there. I think Peanut is the best jungler. That's fucking Jackie. I did that thing again where I looked at the top name, didn't I? Peanut, the one below. I think Peanut is the best jungler in the world. I think he's probably even, if I look at his impact, both from his role and shot calling aspect, he's probably a top 5 player in the world, if we're being honest. It's why it's so crazy him and Chovy didn't work out in the long run. Like Peanut played with Faker at the end of his prime and Chovy right in the middle of his prime and didn't win a Worlds with him, amazingly. He only made the semis. That's actually almost inexplicable, isn't it? He did win an MSI with Faker, to be fair. I mean, Peanut just had... First of all, if it's ever there, he has that poppy. Even though Mickey X obviously wants that in support. He generally just has some pretty good picks as it is. I even think he can do the Ankos and play the odd mechanical jungle and just make it work enough for a game. His brain jungling is fucking sick, though. Every year it feels like he gets smarter. Now, I don't know if he'll choke it with because that's part of the problem of pressure when you're someone who thinks a lot, paralysis by analysis. But right now, I have to say he's one of the best players in the world. So I'm going to put Peanut up there. And because I'm not as big an On fan, I think that makes me more of an Elk fan, who I do think looked utterly insane headed to MSI. Wasn't as good at MSI. And then in summer, he was still probably the best ADC in the LPL, but he wasn't as insane as Spring. That's why everyone seems like the best player in the world, not even best ADC. I think Elk probably gets to be second. I think that's fair. I think Elk can be in S tier for now. He is a really fucking skilled player. Look, obviously everyone's not spamming Lucian and shit like that now, but he's fucking insane anyway. His spacing's sick. The way he weaves in his auto attacks is really impressive in team fights. He's not the guy who accidentally cancels one in the middle of a fight that you're like, oh, he could have gotten 2 more and got the kill. He's a guy like Viper who just gets them all off every time, really clean. I think I've got to put him up there. Like I say, I think teams like BLG and Gen G, they are sort of super teams, but not every player's a super team. So if you notice, I've got 3 players from BLG. I've got Bin, Knight, and Elk. So for them, it's actually the laners I'm taking. And then in Gen G, I'm actually taking solo laners and the jungler. So it's top side of Gen G. That makes sense when the team was built. And then it is the 3 laners of BLG. And then I think actually that their support and jungler are the more dodgier elements. I mean, one's just a supportive aspect of the jungler. And then I think essentially On is, what does Dom call him? Like a... Not a positive inter, like what's it called? A necessary inter or something. I don't know. He's one of those guys where you sort of need him to stimulate the game by internet a little bit. And obviously he's an engaged monster, isn't he? So for the team fight, it's going to be big. Right, who am I missing? Because I should also, I've just realised I've been putting people in here while I was talking there. So, seeing as we're on ADC now, I don't think I'm going to put anyone else in S tier for ADC. I think my next one... By the way, the other thing that might change this is I don't know how shit it gets on C and D. I think what I'm going to do is this. I'm not ranking everyone. I'm just doing my S, A, B, C, and D players. And then anyone who doesn't make the list, who gives a shit? You don't get to be counted. So there'll be certain Western players who won't even make the list, by the way. I think for A tier, logically, I'm going to put Light. Put Light here. From Weibo Gaming. Because I actually do think he was fucking smurfing recently. I think he was one of the main reasons why Weibo had this glow up. It was him and Tarzan. Tarzan, what he brought to the team, Light was just the main carry of the team. He was just really sick. Zhao was just doing clutch shit, doing Faker-esque things, like coming in with a big clutch game or having the odd game on an ADC where he could carry. Light was just fucking smurfing. I used to be a big critic of this guy when he used to play on LNG a few years back, but I think he's leveled his game up year on year. I think he was even a big reason they were good last year at Worlds. I think he's primed. He's actually a player where he's also like at the top end of A tier, but I can't put him in S right now. I think he's really good though. So I'm going to put Light there. Is there another ADC? Right, this is where I might get controversial, because are you ready? I am temporarily going to put Piers in A tier, And I guess all the stats would say he should be there. But I might even be a hater later. And if I have to drop somewhere, he might drop to B. Because I'm a little bit of a Pearce critic. As I've just said, I feel like in his team, I think he's the least important of all 5 players. I think Chovy's the most important. Then you would go with Keane in terms of like, he can play all the styles and round out the comp. Then I think you'd go Canyon for the carry factor. Lehens is the shot caller, and I think Pearce just does ADC things. He's like an old school ADC, and I think he's a little bit overrated personally. I couldn't really understand that Wolf angle of like he should be the MVP. I don't get it, mate. So I'll put him A tier for now, but I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical on that one. And then I know we're going to have to put one more ADC. I'm going to have to put my boy Aiming, and for now I'm going to put him in A tier. Because even though I think he should have been the MVP of the summer split. I think he was pretty good in spring. I think last year, he was the main carry on Katie Rolster. I think this guy's a really skilled player, but he's a little bit like... He's a little bit like Zeus in the sense he will just have those memorable games where he utterly shits the bed. Now, not as much nowadays. Like just like Jackie-Love, he's sort of like followed Jackie-Love's year. He's sort of lagging a year behind Jackie-Love on rep. He came out as like a monster, can carry the game, but can also throw the whole game and flash forward and into you. He doesn't do that anymore, but it just in the playoffs, I thought he was underwhelming. I thought he didn't come and carry the series like I thought he would. Look, in the regionals, he looked good again, but then he just didn't do it like I thought he would in the playoffs. That makes me a bit skeptical. But I think his summer regular split did deserve A tier at least. It's probably S-. It's just, that was like one split. I don't know yet. I think he has to be A tier for me, Aiming. He's also the best player overall, in my opinion, on D+. So we're doing Aiming. I can do for ADCs right now. I don't know, actually. What am I going to do about Lehens? Because the problem is I can't really count shot calling much. I can do like, I shared a tiny bit in, but it can't be what your ranking is worth. So I've got to tell you, even if people are going to get mad at us, I feel like that means Lehens starts on B. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense for people in the sense that, like, well, you just said like he's more important than Pearce. Yeah, I mean in the context of the team setup, not this list. Like, if you had to draft players, well, that's actually a bad analogy because you would take other ADCs because you can take Chinese ADCs before Pearce, can't you? But in terms of supports, there's loads more in Korea I prefer. Like, I prefer the player Korea than this guy. So I'm going to put Lehens B for now. He has definitely leveled up from KT last year. He's a lot better this year. That might even be hating. Maybe he should be like low A. Is that hating? I don't know. I've just never been that big a fan. I guess he has smurfed some pretty good games generally. Maybe for now I'll put him there, but I'll think about it. Like I said, I like to be harsh, so he might be the guy I drop to B, but I'll do that in a minute. Because the problem now is this. I've only got one support in S tier. Is there really only one support player in the whole world in S tier? That feels a bit harsh, doesn't it? And then is there anyone else I care about at support? Let's look. Alvaro's definitely not getting on this list. Pussy's dog shit relative to this list. Crisp. The problem is he does have some really bad int games, but I'm actually a fan of this guy. People will know I preferred him over Tian in old FPX. I've heard he also was piloted by Doinby, but I think he's pretty skilled. I think that feels like B for now. His champion pool's a bit hit and miss. When it hits, it hits. But when it misses, it also misses. So I'm going to put him B for now. There is Carrier himself, who I think is probably A tier. The problem there is his Carrier is equally good as Lehens. I mean, Lehens' team's way better. I still think Carrier's good, though. It wasn't the best split for him. Maybe he's more B. I don't know, because it wasn't his meta. When he doesn't have his own weird swaps and picks, he becomes less dynamic a player, and I just don't like him as just... Like, if it's just a meta where, like, oh, what, I'm just drafting the boring Leona, would you really want Carrier that high up? Maybe he should go with there for the moment. That's harsh, though, isn't it? Carrier down there. It's Carrier, bro. I don't know about that. Fuck it. I might even have to put Mickey X there. I know he's had some bad splits, but he's one of of all the support players, he's one of the support players that wins games the hardest himself, both on actual plays in the server and clearly macro calls. And then his Poppy is just almost an unbeatable champion. Like, he just can always get the target selection in the team fight. So even though he's played sus, I might even put him B, but that's why I might have to move Kerry up in a second. Let's see on that one. Because surely some other T1 players are A tier. They can't just all be fucking B and below. Who are the other support players here? Core JJ. I feel like Core JJ starts in D. Like, as an actual individual player, is he that good anymore? Look, he's still great at doing stuff like himself, like finding an engage, but isn't that kind of all he does? And he played way worse. I think his position's dog shit in that country. LCS doesn't have many good support players, as if Ayla's even on this list. Let's look. Orner, Massau, Kellen. We're not doing any of the fucking D+ supports, that's for sure. Lol, why is Reckless on there? Sniper, Super, Tarzan, Tian, Tomo, Umti, Wei, Zhao Hu, Zhun, Yagao, Yon, Yike, Zika. Maybe that's it for now. We'll do the other roles. Let's go back to mid lane, because I only did fucking 2 of them. So I only did Knight and Chovy, just put them straight away at the top, didn't I? So I think for the mid lane, I feel like I'm going to have to see more from Zika before I actually believe it's real. I can't put him in S tier, but I think, you know what? It might shock people, but I actually will put Zika in A tier. I think for this split, he earned it. If I took the nameplate off and I showed you some of the champions he was playing, some of the games he carried, and some of the kills he got, I think a lot of people would be surprised. And I think we all want to hate on him because of the bullshit he pulled in DRX and how sus he was earlier in the year on Handwell Life. But I actually think he was pretty fucking good this split. I think he sort of earned this spot at this point in time. Low A tier, maybe even actually mid A tier. By the way, I think I actually undervalue him compared to other people. I think other people have him way higher than I do, but I don't know, tendencies are a real thing in my opinion. Who else am I going for now? What other mid laners do I have? APA, can't do that right at this moment because that's going to be DRC. He didn't have the best summer split overall in my opinion. Broken Blade, Pussy Up, Whip. Caps actually started to fall off by the time season finals came, but he was so good all year long. Oh, this is brutal because it's between A and B. I could put him B. I feel like everyone's going to put him A because they're going to overrate him and they're also going to go, but internationally he'll do this. Does he actually deserve to be in A tier though? He probably does for the whole year. For the summer split generally, I'll put him here for the moment. We'll think about that one though. Fucking hell. Because he's not a top 10 player, but then again, I don't necessarily have to have him top 10 to get him up there, do I? I've already got like 20 players or something, so... Who else would I pick for mid lane though? Who haven't I thought of for mid lane? Because Zhao's not going to make it that high up the list. Showmaker, like I told you, I think Eamon's the best player on his team. Who do we even go with? Who the hell are we going with here? I'm sure I'm missing someone. Maybe Cream? Where would Cream be? Because I think his spring was pretty good. He got back to being a beast in summer and was way better at UWC than he was at MSI. He'd probably chalk at this Worlds, but I think he is pretty good. Is he an A player though? I feel like he's A or B. Do I put him down to B though? Is that too harsh? I did think in the playoffs he was a bit more sus. Maybe I'll put him B for the moment. We'll think about that one. Where should I put Zhao Hu? Because realistically, I don't know. This is the problem. In the playoffs, he had a bit of a glow up in the regional, but 0 for 4 for the split, I thought he was more like a B player. The problem with him is they're going to take like intangibles like his clutch, his shot call, and that would make him an A player. But I think overall, you probably have to put him as B. I think that's just more fair. Humanoid can go C tier. Like he was actually a little bit better, I thought, these last few splits, but he's still... I think the worst thing is, for me, his shot calling looked like it's disappeared. Now it looks like he's disconnected even from the team. It looked like before they just followed him no matter what. He even himself looks like he makes bad plays, but he does still have skills, so I'll put him C for now. Who else? APA, he can go D tier. I mean, I probably shouldn't even rank him, but I'll put him D tier for now, I guess. The problem with that is, can you take people like, oh, you can. Oh, good. I'll put him D tier. I think we'll just go in order now and pick people that I haven't put in. So Breathe, I actually thought got a bit gapped recently, but he is good. He's not bad. He's probably more of a C tier player for me. I don't know. The problem is in an Renekton meta, that's really great for him, isn't it? So maybe he's B tier. We'll think about that one. We'll come back to that one. Let's go through here. Thorin. This is tough. Because even though I said earlier, I have a natural bias to carries over the weak side. Well, the joke is Thorin he went the other way. He used to be the carry that became the tank play. He's actually sort of done a 369. And I actually think people are always too harsh on Thorin. Like last year, I especially thought going into Worlds, he was at his absolute peak. I thought he really might have been like third or fourth best top laner, especially because head to head, he could always match up with Zeus, couldn't he? So part of me wants to put him in A, but I'll put him B for the moment. I did think he was a little bit sus in the play. I do think he's actually an underrated player, though. I think people look at the lack of sometimes a high end to his game and they ignore the flaw. I don't think he's as much of an inter as people make out. I think he's actually a pretty good player. So I'll have Thorin there for the moment. Gala didn't actually have the best split, but he is a very skilled player. Feels like a B for now. Like Light is better than him. Piers is better than him by a bit. Yeah, I think that's fine for now. Gumayushi. Fucking hell, that's going to be hard. Obviously, it wasn't his meta. He's not the Zeri player. Is it hating too much to put him C, though? It might be. But he just wasn't that sick for me. I think I'm going to put him C for the moment. I do think mechanically he's a very skilled player. Also, I will note, everyone mentioned that detail when Gumayushi first came in the league, that Innovation, his brother, was a GSL champion and a top StarCraft 2 player. What no one mentions is, think how sick that is for his mom then. That means she had one son that was one of the best StarCraft 2 players in the world. And then she had, after that, a son who played a mechanical role. By the way, Innovation was mega mechanically, who then became the world champion League of Legends. Those are two of the biggest games ever. Look, StarCraft 2, admittedly, not so much, but StarCraft, the franchise, those are two of the biggest games ever in Korean esports history. It's pretty sick, isn't it? Fuck it, Gumayushi C tier for the moment. We'll review that in a second. Hans Sama, I think actually sort of got it together in summer, but I think he had some criminal play in fucking spring. Hans Sama. He's also actually a tiny bit of an international choker, but don't tell anyone that because everyone just lives in denial because in Rogue they had more chokers. So since he looked like he wasn't choking in team fights, he was doing damaging but losing, people say he doesn't choke. But I think actually, here's the thing, I don't think he straight up chokes as much as I think he's like sort of a bit of a princess, if people know the analogy from Shocks or Flame, where everything has to be their way if you want them to perform. So you have to play to him and give him his picks and smash lane with 2v2 kill lanes. Otherwise, I think he just has a bit of a pout and then doesn't play his best. So I think he can go C tier for the moment. Is that hating though? Should he actually be B tier? Look who's in B tier though. Like, is Ansama really going to go above Gumayushi? Maybe actually. Maybe he is. Maybe for now I'm going to put him B tier. Oh, I've actually missed some bangers here, I've just realised. Holy moly. So if I go along, I'll go in order again of the ones I need to add. Broken Blade, I actually think is a D tier player or a C tier player. I'll think about that in a second. I think he got carried a lot this year. I'll go, even though he did great in some of the more recent finals. What am I going with here? Faker. Right, he's obviously definitely not S and A. B. The problem is so much of Faker's game is being a captain and shot calling, which I can't rank you for this list entirely on that. So I feel like you're also going to be C, because I'll give you that you have a clutch factor, as in it actually manifests in the game. You can play an all right laning phase, but you're not great. You're definitely not getting solo kills. You're limited on what you can pick. I think I'll put you C for now. Inspired, I might go fucking mental on. Like, this is insane, because any LCS one is really hard, because they're not playing very good opponents. So, Inspired, look, a sane pick is he's probably B, right? Because look who's in B. But to be insane, I might even say fucking A. That's probably too much though, isn't it? People don't know, I've always been a massive Inspired fan. Because I just love, it's so rare Westerner can ever actually play the Korean control jungle style. And he just plays all the styles now. It's actually incredible. I think I'm going to put him here, I don't give a fuck. And in fact, I'm going to do the same thing. Razork gets to be A tier as well. There you go. I mean, I might take some out of this in a second, but I think these two Western junglers are as good as the Koreans. Razork with his hands, Inspired with his overall game and his mind and his pathing. These two are fucking cracked out of their minds. Like, yeah, maybe Canyon's got better mechanics than Razork. That's not like some diss to Razork. Maybe Peanut plays a smarter game than Inspired. That's no diss to Inspired. The fact I'm even giving that comparison and considering and humouring it shows you how highly I rate these guys. Impact did have a brilliant split, but he's never going to be the best carry player. And we're talking about some of the best players in the world here. So for me, he's more of a, I don't know. Part of me says B tier, but I'll put him here for the moment. Holy shit, I didn't have Jackie Love in there. Why have I not got Jackie Love in there? Jackie Love. The problem is his summer wasn't as good as it was earlier in the year and at EWC, so he's maybe A tier himself. The narrative that he chokes, I don't really know about that. He definitely doesn't int like people say he used to. I think that's pretty good. I think that's good enough. The problem I think he had was if it's his jungle and mid go missing. Might happen again. He's got people who are somewhat creams inexperienced, and Tian's fucking Tian. That reminds me, I haven't done Tian. Tian is one of my least favourite players. And the reason why is he has fucking intuitive feel for pathing that sometimes looks brilliant. It's why in the modern day it can't be Doinby anymore. Doinby isn't there. Some of it's him doing that now. I even think that maybe means people were unfair. Either he learned from Doinby some of the way to look at the map, or Doinby was only doing part of it and we were giving some of what he was doing as credit to Doinby. Mechanically, he's good, but people know he has like a wrist injury, so that's a bit of a nightmare. He probably is still A tier if we look how he played in general. I like the way at the moment I have all of TES is in, 4 of them are in A tier and then 1's in B. That does actually make sense. I don't think they truly have like the best player at any position, but they have a very good team overall at aggregate, and that's why they're in contention as sort of like a 2nd, 3rd, 4th best Chinese team. That's not terrible so far. Who else are we going with? This is a tough one because Kingen played way better this summer for D+. He did level up a lot, but I've just never been a fan of his game. So I think I'm going to be a mild hater and put him in C for the moment. I just don't really buy that he does it in general. And I also think some of that was, like, in your team, Aiming was the carry, Showmaker was the 2nd best player, and then Lucid was good, but he's a rookie, so we give him a little bit of a pass. Speaking of which, Lucid. Damn it, where do I put him? Do I really put him in D tier? Because I always thought he was pretty solid. Maybe he's a C tier player too. But I do give him a pass. I'm probably not as harsh. But I don't think I can put him in B. Who else have I got? Owner. Now that's rough because I do think Owner had some kind of shit games, but he also had some games where his mechanics looked really good. I think Owner might be a B tier player. He's also a player where I think if he was on another team, he'd have some games where he had massive ganks and mechanical players, but I think without Faker, I think he'd be a bit sus on the map. I think he's got a little bit of the Brox on him when he needs to be told what to do. Quid and Quad. Right, of the two, Quad is actually probably the better player. Maybe I can put Quad on C and Quid on D. I think Quid just got overrated from Spring because of how shit 100 Thieves is. But I don't actually think he's that sick personally. I think he's got skills, like hands, but I don't see a whole lot more than that. River, sadly, I think is a horrifically overrated player at this point in time. He's just smurfs on the LCS. This is a tough one because I think Zika should actually be B tier. I could even have put him A. Because here's the problem. Zika is doing some sort of like regional buff or something, because he did this last year too. If you remember in the playoffs last year on LNG, he was fucking one of the reasons why they were taking JDG to 5 games. And then this year, especially like around the regional, he looked way better and he had a whole bunch of carry games. He sort of worked his way into form. I thought most of the split he was kind of... So in terms of just his performance, then I would put him A. Like he is actually like a carry top laner, but I think I'm going to put him B for the aggregate performance overall. Who am I missing here? Scout. That's if he even goes. So there's also Yagao. We don't know who it's going to be. Technically, that hasn't been resolved. So if it's Scout, this is tough. Where the fuck would Scout be? Like, isn't Scout better than Cream? And I put Cream in B. I think Scout has to be A. For me, Scout is like, he's more in the vein of a Chovy than he is in terms of like a a super aggro kill mid laner. But he's not just a mage player. He's definitely played loads of champions other than that in his career. But I just find him a little bit more of a conservative player, and he's the player that carries when the team setup comes to him and he gets the resources. That's why and I also think this year he was able to prove without Tarzan that I think some of the macro is coming from him and his decisions on the map as well. So I think he's basically a better version of Faker with better hands. I don't know if he's quite as good a shot caller and captain and all that jazz. So I'm going to put Scout at 80. I think he deserves to be there for right now. I will say, even though I'm a massive fan of Inspired, part of me is just looking and going, wait, Inspired's in the same category as Scout, fucking Mako, and 369, is he? Jackie Love. I mean, maybe. Maybe he is. I don't, we'll see about that. Maybe I have to move him down in a second. I'll think about that one. I'll think about it. By the way, Summoning Insects at 5 o'clock, so there's not that much longer after this. So I've got to go do something. Let's have a look here. Yike. I think Yike. People are going to hate on this, but I think Yike might be in C. I don't know. Broken Blade didn't play bad. Maybe he's C as well. No, because in his team, I think he's the least valuable. I think Yike got to live the fucking dream. Do you remember when Contracts played in Cloud9 in 2017 and his solo laners were Impact when he was still good in general anyway, not just good for longevity in weeks, blah, blah. He had Jensen as his mid laner, the best split ever of Jensen probably. And then he had Sneaky right at the end of Sneaky's sort of prime as he was starting to fall off. It was more the 2018 onwards. He just got to live in winning lanes all day. He had 2 winning lanes from his solo laners, or his lanes could even say, fuck it, go elsewhere on the map. I've got literally a weak ADC and a weak side top lane. We can both survive. Just play for Jensen. I thought he got to survive a little bit. I think Yike did some of that. And for me, crucially, when the meta went away from the carry picks, I think he stuck with them for way too long. So I'm putting him in C. I think him and Broken Blade were just handed fucking championship after championship by Caps and Hansama's carry play and then Mickey X doing fucking sick things on the map. And also Smurfing in winter. I do think Yagao had a pretty shitty year in general, a pretty shitty summer. I thought he was way worse in summer than spring, and I thought in spring he just didn't fit the team, unfortunately. So I'm going to maybe put him in C. He wasn't bad, but I'm not going to put him high. I don't think I'm going to put him down with these 3. Who else? The 2 ways. I think Way 1 is better than Way or Way 2. This is like fucking Mew and Mewtwo, innit? Give me a break, mate. So Way is the better one, but he's more of a supportive player. And for me, I think he's got a fucking unbelievable team. So I actually underrate him, everyone says, which means I think that he's overrated. So I'm going to put him in B tier. I'm sorry, I actually do. I don't care what people think. I know they play lesser competition, which is tricky, but I actually do think Inspired and Razork are better junglers than Way. I just do. I know it's going to look like Way's better, but the flaw and his margin for error is way smaller, and his flaw is way lower, in my opinion. Well, maybe his flaw is higher because of the team play, but his margin for error is way bigger because of the amazing players he has. Whereas I think Inspired and Razork pretty much have to be at their best for their teams to win, and they do it so much. Way, I actually think is mega overrated. I'm just not a big fan of him, so I'll put him in C. He's not bad, but I'm just going to put him in C. Who have I missed here? Jean isn't even going to be playing, most likely. So the sad thing is, look, Jean hasn't played, so how can I rank him? But I actually do think Jean, in theory, should still be an A player. His mechanics are so strong, and he has that killer instinct. His problem is he doesn't know when to back off, and he's not that great overall as a pathing jungler. So he also might have been a tiny bit boosted by player with Knight, who's just a stud. So if I did rank him, I'd probably put him B, but he probably should be A tier. He can be S tier, by the way. He's got fucking unbelievable hands. Is, I think, good, but not a god, so maybe C for that one. Problem is he does also have Impact as one as his top laner, so you can leave him if you need to, or play through him. And then, crucially, he has Core JJ as support, so I don't know about that one. This makes me think, should Core JJ be in B instead? Does he get to go up in a B? I don't know about that. Let me think. Does Core JJ get to go up to B? Probably not, right? Probably not. Yeah, probably not, for being honest. Tarzan. I'm a massive Tarzan fan. He is like... He's the type of jungler I'm talking about when I say Inspired learned to play the Korean style. This is one of the best, like, farm control jungle style players ever, in my opinion. He brings so much macro to the table. His problem is, because he has sadly choked a bunch of worlds, and he sometimes has the odd dodgy playoff series, he ends up underrated because bozos only watch worlds. By the way, that's what gives away. It's a self-report. When you don't watch like 50 series and you watch 2 series that are bad and go, he sucks, you're just telling me you don't watch League of Legends, you don't know ball. But you think you're dissing him. You're dissing yourself. So I'm going to put Tarzan all the way up in A tier. I don't think he deserves to be in S tier. He does have flaws to his game. I do think, by the way, he's actually pretty strong mechanically too. And I do think if you go all the way back, people can say this is a delusional take. I think when they first came on the scene in Season 9, he was the best jungler in the world. I think he was fucking unbelievable. I think he was very good last year in LNG. And I think this year, this split, he came back to Weibo. He was one of the reasons why they were a team that could make the finals and make worlds. So I'm going to put Tarzan in A quite firmly. I think he's a mega player. Who else am I taking here? I actually think Jun had a shitty summer and people just keep repeating that he's sick from spring. So that he probably actually deserves to be in D tier. Who else here? Don't give a fuck about Merwin. Fuck off Noah. Scarinin, River, Showmaker. Showmaker probably deserves to be in B tier. I don't know about that one. I can't put him in A tier is the problem. Because I don't want like a million people in A tier to be nice to people. I think I'm going to be harsh and put him in B. But I think that's actually accurate. I think he has carry games. I think he's not as good as you think he is. He's definitely not Showmaker from 2020 or 2021 or whatever. Maybe 2021 was his best year. He's definitely not that Showmaker. And even in 2022 when the team fell apart, him and Canyon just took turns to have carry games. So he's not quite that good, even though he did have a better split this year than last. Who else? Everyone knows I'm not a Kellen fan. There's no Mohan here. Okay. So Kellen would go like D tier. He can fuck right off. Who else? That might actually be it. Like, let me see. Like, if I'm putting people like Yike, Quad, Yagao, Weiwei in D, I think Whipple probably is D, right? Because the problem is, look, he obviously was very good in LCS, even then he wasn't close to the MVP. But the problem is the LCS is so weak at his role. The only other good player for real is Impact. After that, you go to fucking Sniper. That's a shit role. So I'm going to have to put Whipple D, I'm afraid. He has some egregious hints even against shitters. El Yoya. Oh, Lord. Again, it's not for the whole year. So I actually thought he was one of the reasons why Mad Lions got way better. Like, maybe he's C. I thought he did sort of glow up. That makes me look like such a hater to have Weiwei in the same category as El Yoya, though. And Faker. but it's because it's in the context of their teams as well. That does sound so bad, doesn't it, El Yoya there? But El Yoya is, I think, by the way, he might fuck up his career with some of his decisions, but he should go down as one of the best players from Europe ever, by the way. One of the best junglers, certainly, but he might even go down as one of the best players from Europe. But he is a really strong player, and he has his own kind of control style, so I do like it. Like, Yon played way worse in the playoffs, but probably overall was a C tier. Come on, is Yon really at the level of Faker? I'm going to be a hater. I'm going to put him down to D. Is that too far, though? The problem is, he did do really well at MSI. He sort of smurfed DWC. I think in summer he wasn't as powerful and the picks went away a little bit though. And the problem is, my gut tells me put him C, but then can he really be at the same level of Faker? Problem is Faker had a really bad split, guys. I think he really did. You see Faker and you think of the name Faker, that's why everyone wigs out. So should Yon really be there at the same level as Humanoid and Corgid? Maybe he should. Normally, as a hater, I'd put him in here with a lot of the people I don't rate, but I don't know. Like, was Yon really better than APA? Shouldn't they sort of both be at the same level? This is a hard one, because part of me feels like, doesn't Masao get to be C? But he's playing ADC and NA, though. Fucking hell, it's such a bad region. So many fucking bad players. I'll at least put him on the list. He at least gets to go D. But the problem is, if you notice in general, LCS people I'm going to put way lower, except for Inspired, because I just can't believe in you, mate. Like, I actually think this makes a lot of sense as to why Team Liquid is the way they are. The only player I've given A tier is Impact. Then I've put Core JJ and Umpty in C tier, which is their jungle support duo. By the way, it's just all the Koreans there, you notice. Then I've put the other two players on the list. I put the two NA players in D tier. So you've got an A player 2C and 2D. And then because you're really well coached and have good macro, you can almost beat like top 6 teams or top 8 teams, but you can't really. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? A lot of these other players I think are just crap, so I'm not putting them anywhere. Maybe Super can go there. He actually did play pretty well out of the people on Mad Lions. He was one of the better carries. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. Does Super deserve to be in C? I do think he actually had a pretty good summer and he was sort of the best carry. I'm a bit of a hater of him as a player, but I got to give him props. I thought he did have a glow up as the year went on. Does everyone have to be ranked? Not really, right? But maybe I should put Noah in there as well on D. Humanoids on C, Noah's on D. Because I do think Noah's a little bit carried. I think we'll just leave it at that, actually. I think you can just leave it at that. There we go. Let's see if there's any I need to move around, though. Should I put someone up? So in S tier, I've got 9 players in S tier. But I think I've done a very good job with that. Like, I've got ADCs. How many have I got? I've got 2 ADCs. I've got 2 mid laners. I've got 2 top laners. And I've got 1 support. Is there really only 1 S-tier support in the whole world of League of Legends? That feels unfair, doesn't it? Shouldn't I have 1 other? Like I'm saying, there's no LPL support that is S-tier in the whole world. That seems unfair, doesn't it? Surely someone gets to be in there. Fuck, it's hard. Because the problem is, if I want to go with Hans, then it should probably be on. But I just think he does have the ints though. And if I'm going with Brains, I'm going with Mako or maybe Lehens. Also, is Kerrier really all the way down? Well, let's just look. I know. Here's what we'll do. We'll look at the people in the category and ask should be in the one above or below. So should Mako be up there? I'm going to keep it there for now. I'm going to be a hater on that one. Zeus, 369, Light. That's something actually. If I've only got Viper and Elk, because any other ADCs deserve to be up there. Aiming, Jackie Love. No, because he did have the drop off a little bit. Because I'm also trying to do a mixture of form and how they played recently. I always wonder that actually on these tier lists. Why are people doing it? Is it their overall feeling, the overall play, his overall level? That's why, if anything, these lists are designed for everyone to just disagree because they pick a different angle than you use, then disagree based on that angle. I think these are all fine so far. It's more like... I mean, at the moment, I'm saying there's no jungler in the whole fucking LPL that is S tier. That feels harsh. But then again, we have people like Wayne Wayway getting all those results. So I can't put Tarzan there. I could have put Tian, but I don't know about that. You know what? I'm going to actually be a hater. And I think I'm going to move Impact down. Because the problem is, I just can't see from what I saw against LCS, a very weak field, that I can really put him in the A category. Was his eye test A? I don't know about that personally. Crisp, Kerrier. Should Kerrier move up? Like at the moment, there's not a single... oh no, there's Zeus up here. I have Kerrier in B. I have Guma and Faker in C. And then I have an owner there. I'm going to put him back over here. So I have two A players on T1. I have 2 B players on T1. And I have 1 A tier. Should Kerrier move up? Nah, that's too much. That's too much to move him up. Like, I think the harshest ones at the moment is like Guma Yushi. I'm pretty harsh too. I think a lot of other people would have a minimum B. Does he deserve to be B? Let's look who's in B. Xiaohu, Breathe, Thorin, Gala. Nah, that's a problem. Personally, I've been always a Kerrier over Guma fan. So I think that's right for now. Who else? Like, obviously, people are going to think I'm hating on Way, but I'm just not that big a fan, to be fair. Where is he? The fuck, where is he? Oh, there he is. No, I think B's still very reasonable, isn't it? I might have even been... Nah, he just deserved to be an A tier. Come on, I can't do more than that. Who else am I missing here? Let's look down here. Is there anyone here who deserves to be one up? Not at the moment. Like, you could argue Broken Blade, but I think he kind of doesn't have to do much on that team. I think he's a bit sus in lane. He definitely improved as a team fighter, but I don't know. Earlier in the year, I'd probably say C or B, but it's super really C if Broken Blade's D. I think so, I'm afraid. I could put Broken Blade there, though, couldn't I? Let me think. Does he actually deserve to go up to there? Nah, we're going to leave him here for now. Obviously the Western ones are the most delusional because I have to judge them based on just other Westerners, not who they're playing against. Like Inspired and Razork here. I just believe it, though. I actually think that's real. I think they really are like the 5th and 6th best junglers at Worlds. That's what I've got here. So I've got 2 junglers here. I've got Peanut and Canyon. There's 2. I've got... who else? Tian. There's 3. It's Tarzan. There's 4. And then my 5th and 6th, I've got Inspired and Razork. I think that's real. Who are the other junglers? You've got Orna. I actually do think they're... Look, I know it's mental to watch Inspired beat up on the LCS, then watch Orna lose to fucking Peanut and Canyon and go, sorry, Orna, you're not it. But that is sort of what we're doing in this equation, isn't it? So, bearing as I don't claim to have the craziest eye test like I do in CS in League, that is kind of what I saw. Even though I'll certainly say to Orna, if anything, I'm probably being slightly biased towards Inspired and a bit unfair to Orna there. With Razork, at least he was playing better competition. At least I did see him smurf better than Orna, in my opinion. Like I said, Zika didn't do enough yet. I think I've been quite fair to Showmaker there. I think that's my list. Everyone needs a support network, and mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Screwminati, who, in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Hadjou, Mac Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Tooorin, and you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are. Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Screwminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.